Good afternoon, friends and family of Gill. A very warm welcome as we come together in both love and friendship this afternoon. And we're not just here to say farewell, but more importantly to honour and celebrate the life of Gillian Gilchrist. She was a remarkable woman in so many ways. And we know that she left a lasting impression on everyone she met. My name is Sam Goodchild and I'm an independent celebrant, and it is such a privilege to be taking this service on behalf of Gill's family. Today isn't going to be an easy day. Grief is hard. It hurts to lose someone we love. And there can't be tears or sadness unless there has been love. And so that pain that you're feeling is an indicator of the deep love you have for Gill. And this service, it is a safe place where you can let your tears and sadness flow and express them in whatever way feels right for you. We are here to support each other and acknowledge the sorrow of losing Gill. At the same time, though, we want to remember all the happy memories. And I know that some of those memories were spent with each of you here, her very dear family and dear friends. And we can be grateful for all the ways our lives were entwined with hers. Gill was a very spiritual person. And although not a churchgoer, as Stephen puts it, she was a Christian at heart. And she also had a strong connection to the Jewish faith, which is Stephen's heritage. And she'd even considered converting at one time. And she and Stephen both shared a deep faith that this life is not the end and the soul continues after death. So we are going to honour Gill's faith in the service as well today. And we're going to also honour her love for theatre, another enthusiasm she shared with Stephen, who was actively involved in productions himself. And you'll see that theme throughout this service with our song choices, and we've got our wonderful singer, Julie Stardust, with us today. And so we're going to truly celebrate Gill and share some of our fondest memories. Kipling's famous poem, If, it extols the virtues of that rare ability to walk with kings nor lose the common touch. And while this is an uncommon trait, Gill had it in spades. She knew how to relate to people no matter who they were, from royalty to the homeless and everyone in between. She was never fazed or intimidated, and it was more than just a capacity to converse. She really knew how to touch people, to put them at ease. She made you smile, not least because of her memorable laugh. She lifted people just by talking to them. Well, sometimes her bold character was not quite so uplifting, flying into Marks and Spencer's just before closing time to do her shopping. Many a security guard has followed Gill around the store to find her infuriatingly indifferent to their looming presence. And I'm sure everyone here recalls she was renowned for never being on time for anything. And it's a marvel that she's made it on time here today. But when she did arrive, eventually, she was always dressed elegantly and she always looked good. So we're going to open the service with a quote from Proverbs which Stephen has chosen and dedicated to his dear wife. A wife of noble character who can find? She is worth far more than rubies. On the 29th of August, 1947, Francis and James Wright welcomed their daughter Gillian into the world. Born and raised in Streatham, Gill grew up with her brother Jimmy. She attended Clapham County Grammar School, affectionately known as Cowshed by the pupils. Gill took her O-levels and A-levels and also went to art school. She had a real talent for art. Her specialty was caricatures and cartoons. She got engaged at 18 years old and was blessed with the birth of her son Lee. Now, things didn't work out with Lee's father, so she and Lee lived with her parents who helped raise him. Gill pursued her career working in the West End, initially for Mitchell Monkhouse Associates, known for their production of musical tracks for silent films as well as jingles. She then changed direction and took a position with Alfred Marks in legal recruitment, and she was tasked with recruiting lawyers for London's law firms. In 1976, Gill was invited to a friend's birthday party, and it was there that she met Stephen Gilchrist. There was an undeniable connection between them, and within a month, Gill had moved into Stephen's place in High Street, Kensington. They fell in love and were married in 1980 at London's iconic Kensington and Chelsea Registry Office, where many famous faces have held their nuptials. Miraculously, Gill arrived at her wedding on time. She'd stayed at her parents' house the night before and had been guided to the venue by the steadying arm of her father. Stephen helped Gill set up her own company. However, she hadn't quite found her niche yet, and that would soon change. Stephen was a volunteer for Release. Founded in 1967, Release is the National Centre of Expertise on Drugs and Drugs Law. And through their services, their team provides free, non-judgmental specialist advice and information to the public and professionals on issues related to drug use and to drug laws. Inspired by Stephen, Gill decided to volunteer, and she quickly became passionate about the work, and she was employed full-time as a legal outreach worker. And with a remarkable ability to connect and converse with the homeless, street workers and substance abusers, Gill excelled in her role. She loved her job and she was totally committed to it. Her compassion for the people she helped and her unique understanding of their needs saw her assisting others like them in her daily life. She and Stephen bought a house on the road leading up to Tootenbeck Common, and much to her neighbours' displeasure, Gill would distribute condoms to the ladies of the night who used to congregate on the common. Now, the neighbours feared that this behaviour might be encouraging them, but still, Gill stood by her decision. It didn't bother her what the neighbours might think. While her neighbours may have been disgruntled, Gill's reputation at work grew, and she was so well respected and highly thought of in those circles. Over the years, Gill also used her artistic talent to illustrate Stephen's legal commentaries with her clever cartoons. Much as she found her work fulfilling, family was always priority for Gill. She and Stephen were delighted to welcome their granddaughter Danielle, to whom Gill was and always will be Gammy. They also welcomed Lee's wife Tina and their children Wayne, Ricky and Natalie, who loved Gill as much as she loved them, and to whom she was Nana Gill. Gill played a large part in Danielle's upbringing, and Danielle lived for some time with Gill and Stephen. Gill was very proud to see Danielle grow into a young woman and start a family of her own, gifting Gill with her great-granddaughter, Isabel. To Isabel, Gill was Nan Nan, and Gill couldn't help treating Isabel. She kept a constant stock of sweets and biscuits when she visited. She adored Isabel. She loved all her family. A consummate problem solver, Gill held the family together and sorted everyone out, and she always made time for them. And this side of her nature extended outside the family to friends and colleagues alike. And if someone came to her with a problem, she would work out a solution, and she always gave so freely. So we're going to hear more about Gill a bit later, but first, Gill loved the last night of the proms, and this one that we're all going to sing in a moment is one of her favourites. So I'd like to invite Julie to lead us, and I'd like to invite you all, if you're able, to stand and let's sing Jerusalem. To invite Lee up to share his memories of his mum with us.
Give me a second, technology isn't my brightest. Things I'll never forget about you, Mum. Your love, you were always there for me when I needed you. Your cuddles and your reassurance, your advice, then that obligatory kiss on the nose or peck on the beak, as you used to call it. I'll miss her regular chats on the phone or FaceTime. She loved FaceTime. I would take the mick out of her and say, I can see up your nose, Mum. And she would then laugh at that infectious giggle everyone knows she has. One of her favourite things, she'd always ring me up at silly o'clock in the morning and say, hope you weren't having sex. Then wet herself laughing. We would have our little chats. Then would say, you're boring me now. Watch Plastic and Clicks and hang up the phone. Mum was never on time. But when she did arrive, she always looked glamorous. There was one occasion I remember her, not only was she on time, she was an hour early. It was Tina's and my wedding. I arranged with my stepfather to tell Mum the wedding was 2 o'clock. She would be on time for 3 o'clock, before 3 o'clock starts. I remember asking, why hasn't it started yet? And I told her it starts at 3. She looked. She gave me that look. My stepdad and my mum was a mum classic. She said how sneaky that was. I also convinced her that a spoil on the back of a Porsche was a picnic table. And I had full air conditioning on a motorbike. She was convinced in that one. There are some of you who I've met over the years and some of you I haven't. And I am sure each and every one of you have your own memories of my mum. So let's take a minute and think about your memories. I have another one here. What's one be, Tina?
What's that one, kids?
This is from Natalie Wayne and Ricky. Our Nana Gill, your life was a blessing, your memory a treasure. You are loved beyond words and missed beyond measure. Thank you, Nana Gill, for the wisdom you shared, the love you gave, and the beautiful moments you shared. Your legacy will continue to inspire us, guiding us through the journey of life. Rest in peace, Nana Gill. Thank you for listening to us.
And Stephen and Gill's dear friend Jeffrey is going to come up and share some memories.
I met Stephen 68 years ago, and it was 20 years later, that I first met... What? It was 20 years later that I first met Gill. Stephen and I met at this eccentric, slightly peculiar, somewhat sadistic prep school in Hampstead when we were 6 years old, and we instantly bonded. We both shared a passion for unusual things, like musical comedy, and eclectic stationery, and smoked salmon. Yeah, just your completely average, run-of-the-mill, totally normal 6-year-old schoolboys. In 1976, Stephen invited my wife and me to a flat in Kensington, where we were introduced to Gill. It took me 5 minutes to realise that Stephen had found home. There was something powerful about how Gill was his protector, his carer, his lover. It was obvious 48 years ago that Stephen had found his perfect partner. I miss Gill's laugh, that throaty, infectious, earthy cackle that could have an entire room in hysterics. She had this ridiculous sense of humour that was endearing to everyone she touched. I miss her roast potatoes.
Oh, yeah.
I miss our restaging scenes from 40 Towers. For a reason I don't quite remember, for my small son Benjamin, she acquired the name Aunt Ruby. Ruby derived from one of the maids in Upstairs Downstairs. And Aunt was added because Benjamin was 5 and, well, Gill wasn't. I have no idea why Gill did become Aunt Ruby, but it stuck. And to Benjamin and to me, Gill became Aunt Ruby, and she always will be. Aunt Ruby was all about love, all about caring. A fantastic and loving daughter and sister. A fantastic and loving wife. A fantastic and loving mother. And grandmother. And great-grandmother. There was this pervasive largesse about Gill that included all who became included in her embrace. And Stephen loved her so much. He worshipped her and depended on her, and she loved and worshipped and depended on him right back. The last few years were devastating for all those who loved her. For Lee, with whom I share a New Year's Eve birthday, for Danielle, for Isabel, and of course for Stephen, struggling with his emotions as he watched her health, as well as her very being, crumble. Aunt Ruby's at peace now. And while we're on the subject of rubies, and this was mentioned earlier, even though Judaism is a pretty misogynistic religion, there's a striking passage in the Old Testament book of Proverbs that we heard it earlier, but you're going to hear more of it now, that religious Jews, unlike me, recite every Friday evening, the eve of the Sabbath. It's called Eshet Chayil. It's a tribute to a woman of valor. Let me read some of it for you. A woman of valor who can find, for her price is far above rubies. You see? It's all about Aunt Ruby. The heart of her husband safely trusts in her, and he has no lack of gain. She does him good and not evil all the days of her life. She works willingly with her hands. She brings her food from afar. She rises also while it is yet night and gives food to her household and a portion to her maidens. She stretches out her hand to the poor. Yea, she reaches forth her hands to the needy. Strength and dignity are her clothing, and she laughs at the time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the law of kindness is on her tongue. She looks well to the ways of her household, and eats not the bread of idleness. Her children rise up and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her. That was Gillian Gilchrist. I'm honoured to have had this opportunity to pay tribute and to wish a fond goodbye to Aunt Ruby.
Thank you, Geoffrey. So we're just going to pause now and spend some time in reflection while we listen to a very moving song, and the lyrics are printed in your order of service if you want to follow them. And this is called Our Walk with God.
I walk with God from this day on.
Danielle, would you like to come up and share your memories?
Granny, you have gained your wings to be an angel in another life, but you've always been mine. Wherever you are now has gained an amazing spirit, and I think all the people who know you would agree. Your favourite colour is yellow, and it always looked good on you. It lit up your face, which you would transfer onto others. I'd call her Big Bird when she wore it. Your love for us was never doubted. You always showed you cared for each and every one of us unconditionally, and here we gather together to return the love and remember the good memories with you. We used to natter on the phone for hours on end, putting the world to right. I really miss that. You talked to me when I would walk home at 4 a.m. from being at a friend's, no doubt a telling off was done. You were the glue that held the family together and the boss of all things. You loved to shop or two and always had to go in a few more, quickly ending up being hours where the staff in the shop were waiting around for us, attempting to kick us out. But you would carry on in your own time. Even Isabel remembers the hours of being dragged into John Lewis. Your laugh was so infectious that it would, without fail, make someone smile. I smile when I think of all the no good we would get up to, like the sleepovers with chocolate flakes and a teapot and tiny teacups. When I was a teen, you'd let me have multiple friends over and make a party out of it. My friends absolutely adored you and thought you were super cool. You also did this with Isabel, chocolate ice cream for breakfast and an unlimited stock of treats. Something I always notice is that you love to bring the family together and have a good lash-up meal. You were the glue that held the family together. Thank you for all you have done for me, for putting up with the good, bad and worse. Thank you for treating me like your daughter. Thank you for being in Isabel's life. Thank you for pushing me to get through school and college and helping me start a family of my own. And most of all, thank you for being you. I love you so much, and I hope your next life treats you well, and I hope whoever you meet appreciates you as much as we do.
So we're now going to, Julie's going to be performing a medley from Oliver for us, and we're also, while that's happening, we're also going to watch a photo tribute on the screen as well.
Small pleasures, who would deny us these? Gin tonics, large measures, no skipping if you please. I love it, I rough it, life is a game of chance. I never tire of it, leading a merry dance. If you don't mind having to go without things, it's a fine life. Though it ain't all jolly or pleasure outings, it's a fine life. When you've got someone to love, you forget your cares and strives. Well, let the prunes look down us, let the wild world frown us. It's a wide, wide world. Oh, Papa, Papa, that's how it goes. Oh, Papa, everyone knows. They will suppose what they want to suppose when they hear oh, Papa. There's a little ditty they're singing in the city, especially when they've been on the gin or the beer. If you've got the patience, your own imaginations will tell you just exactly what you want to hear. Oh, Papa, Papa, that's how it goes. Oh, Papa, everyone knows. They will suppose what they want to suppose when they hear oh, Papa. Mr. Percy Snodgrass would often have the old glass, but never when he thought anybody could see. Secretly he'd buy it and drink it on the quiet, and Tweety was a girl with a girl on each knee. Oh, Papa, that's how it goes. Oh, Papa, everyone knows what is the cause of his red shiny nose. Could it be wrong, Papa? He doesn't say the things he should. He acts the way he thinks he should. But all the same I'll play this game his way, as long as he needs me. I know where I must be. I'll cling on steadfastly, as long as he needs me, as long as life is long. I love him right or wrong, and somehow I'll be strong, as long as he needs me. If you are lonely, then you will know when someone needs you, you love them so. I won't betray his trust, though people say I must. My heart will stay true, just as long as he needs me.
I'd like to invite Stephen up to talk.
Well, it's a sad day, but also a day of, I'd like to think, celebration. I thank you so much all for coming, particularly Jeffrey, who's flown from New York to be with us today, and all of you come from different parts of the country to say your farewells to Gill. As a lawyer, as an advocate, one was used to speaking in public and extemporising, but I didn't feel that I could just come up here today and speak from the heart without a note. So I felt I had to get my thoughts in order and write it down, which is what I've done. So excuse me for referring to this. When a soulmate dies, the shock is often overwhelming. But in truth, Gill left many months ago. And so while the shock of her passing, even after a lingering decline, remains, it was softened somewhat by the advanced knowledge of its inevitability, and one becomes acclimatised to it. But if there's one thing I want to ask all of you to believe today, that's what I believe. And it is while we're burying the remains of human beings, Gill is with us today, restored to health as she was in her prime, here, witnessing our ceremony, perhaps joining in, perhaps laughing with us as we recount our memories of her. It's that belief which has kept me going through these long months and years, knowing the inevitability of her physical end, but sure in the belief of her spiritual survival. But enough of death, talk of life. And what you've heard today, and what you've laughed at today and giggled at, that was Gill. Once upon a time, our great novelist, Arnold Bennett, wrote a book called The Card. You may not have read it, but it was made into a film with Alec Guinness many years ago now. And the hero or protagonist was a character called Denry Machin. And this is a quote from the end of the book. It's a comment. And yet, demanded Councillor Barlow, what's he done? Has he ever done a day's work in his life? What great cause is he identified with? He's identified, said the speaker, with the great cause of cheering us all up. And that is the great cause I want you to remember Gill for. Cherish such people in your life, people who cheer you up whenever you encounter them. The supply of them is nowhere near as close as the demand. Remember Gill's sense of humour, her infectious laugh, her ability to mix easily with royalty, all the down and out. But above all, remember her for her humanity. There have been numerous references in this ceremony to shows, and blame me for that. But blame Gill as well. In the show Oklahoma, Oscar Hammerstein wrote a lyric which included the words, "A heart as big as all outdoors," and that was Gill. She always had time for everyone who sought her help, advice, and committed herself, over-committed herself, it could be said, to helping them. As you've heard, I first met Gill in 1976. I was rehearsing the show Grease. Yeah, believe it or not, I was actually in production of Grease. Two of the girls in the show took me to a birthday party one Saturday night in Streatham. There was Gill sitting in a corner. I can see her now, sitting there. I just moved into my first flat, and within a few weeks she moved in too, together with our first cat, Rupert, and soon after our spaniel, Harry. Gill loved animals. And that was a wonderful time, that flat we lived in High Street, Kensington. It was in a rather decrepit terrace called Earl's Terrace. Now it's been turned into Millionaire's Row by the developer. But it was just set back from the High Street in Kensington, next, Kensington High Street, next to the Odeon Cinema. The whole terrace was owned by somebody called Jack Schaffer. Now, Jack Schaffer was the was the father of the playwright twins, Anthony and Peter Schaffer. And he regarded renting these flats as an extremely low rent, as his sort of subsidy to the arts. So the entire terrace comprised people in the business, as you say. Gill became very pally with the likes of Peter Wingard, Jean Anderson, Goody Withers, and they all loved her. We had a great time during those 4 or 5 years that we lived there. But eventually, as one does, we had to grow up. So we got married. And we bought a house, lived in Streatham for about 20 years. We often holidayed in the United States, the West Indies, which Jill loved, Barbados, Jamaica, and sometimes with our wonderful friends Linda and Geoffrey, who are here today. Most recently, we had some wonderful family holidays in Gozo, Malta, with Danielle and Charlie and Isabel, our great-granddaughter. You also heard that after starting her career as a recruitment consultant, Jill eventually became involved with Drugs Charity Release, with which I've been involved as a volunteer for many years, and she was employed as a legal outreach worker. Her job entailed visiting what are called, or were called in those days, needle exchanges. These are clinics, essentially, where drug addicts can get a fresh supply of clean needles to inject themselves with. She was advising drug addicts and homeless kids with their legal problems, primarily criminal and housing problems. And you probably noticed from the slideshow, her reputation was such that in the 1990s, Diana, Princess of Wales, who was patron to one of the charities she advised, actually asked to meet her, and so she was presented to her, and you see that photograph. Despite the nature of her work, she never dressed down. She always dressed up and elevated, and was much loved and admired by her clients. She was written about in the legal press and worked with me on the committee of the Law Reform and Human Rights Charity Justice. But that's one side of Jill. There was another side of Jill. In our house, there were 2 time zones, RT and GT, that is to say real time and Jill time. Jill was never on time for anything except our wedding. Although Lee reminded that perhaps she may have made his wedding on time.
Maybe just mine.
And yours.
Maybe
Yes. Yeah. So she was good for weddings, but frankly, I expected her to be late for her own funeral today. I mean, her remains may have arrived on time, but I'm not sure her spirit wasn't at least 15 minutes late. Jill time had something to do with the space-time continuum and Doctor Who's TARDIS. Personally, I could never work it out. Safe to say, it was never ahead, it was always behind real time. Jill also smoked for England. I'm not sure she ever wanted to give it up. I think she just enjoyed smoking. And of course, whenever we travelled, I had to ensure that I purchased the maximum cigarette allowance at the duty-free shop before departure. She had no sense of money at all. Why buy something in Tesco's for £20 when you can go buy it in Harrods for twice as much? All of this was Jill. But above all, to me, she was a soulmate. I loved her with all my heart. I was with her for 48 years, and it broke my heart when she went into care in December 2022. It was the worst day of my life. I saw her disintegrate before my eyes over nearly 3 years. But that's over. I want to remember, and I want you to remember, Jill as she was. Funny, cheerful, good-hearted, a loving daughter, mother, sister, grandmother and great-grandmother, and of course, wife, my wife. Above all, she's identified with the great cause of cheering us all up. And remember, if you can, that she's not really dead. She's with us today, laughing with us, or perhaps at us. I'd like you to stand, please. I'm going to recite the Jewish prayer with Kaddish, and those of you who are familiar with it, most welcome to join me. The Mourner's Kaddish is a 13th century Aramaic prayer which is said during every traditional prayer service in the Jewish faith, traditionally recited in memory of the dead, although it makes no mention of death. Kaddish means sanctification in Aramaic, and it's related to the Hebrew word kadosh, which means holy. Prayer never mentions death or dying, but instead proclaims the greatness of God. By reciting it, mourners show that even as their faith is being tested by their loss, they are affirming God's greatness. I'm happy to start prayer. Yisgadal v'yisgadash shnei rabah, v'yamad v'drachi v'sei, v'yam nichnach v'sei, v'chayachom v'yinechom v'chayid kol beish Yisrael, v'ba'agol v'zman korev v'yinechom Yehesh me'rabam v'vrach v'yadam o'meo ma'yah, Yisbarach v'yishdach, Yisba'al v'yisvram v'yisvasei, Yisadav v'yisalei v'yisadash v'yisvashol v'yachim. Le'elomin kol v'chosor v'shilosatish v'chosor v'nechemosor, v'amiron v'amor v'yinor me'in. Yehesh shlom v'rabam v'shamaya v'chayim o'lein v'yakol Yisrael v'yinor me'in. Ose shalom v'yamor v'chuya se shalom v'lein v'yakol Yisrael v'yinor me'in. Thank you. Please be seated. I just, before I announce my phone, again, anybody can come in today, those watching this, send us again. All those watching on the stream. But I'd also like to give very sincere thanks to our funeral directors, Daniel and Farewells, who made this an occasion. And our upper singer, Julie Stardust, and our celebrant, Sam. And again, thank you all very much for coming.
Thank you, Steve. So beautiful to hear the Aramaic. Well, as we know, sadly, Gill's health declined after she suffered a stroke back in 2021. Stephen cared for her at home for as long as he possibly could. And it was only, as he mentioned, in December 2022 that she needed that professional care and moved into the care home. And when she was recently admitted to hospital for palliative care, Stephen was visiting every day, and family all spent time with her saying their goodbyes. And Lee and his wife were staying overnight. They were with Gill 24/7, and I know that Stephen and the rest of the family are just so very appreciative for that and what he did. And it was on the 13th of March that Gill was released from a body that was just no longer able to function, and her soul went to join God. And so let's reflect on this comforting psalm, and it reminds us that we're always looked after, even in death. And you're welcome to join in if you wish. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So we're shortly going to be closing the service with some music from Julie, and then we will all follow Gill out, and we'll walk down to the graveside. We'll follow her on. We'll follow the hearse on foot down to the graveside. And if you're very welcome to come. It's a little bit of a walk, but it's doable.
next year, some year, though it's hell that I'm going through, some Tuesday, Thursday, April, August, autumn, winter, next year, summer year, time heals everything, time heals everything but loving you. And if I'm patient, the break will mend, and one fine morning the hurt will end. So make the moments fly, autumn, winter, I'll forget you by next year, some year. Oh, it's hell that I'm going through, some Tuesday, Thursday, April, August, autumn, winter, next year, summer year, time heals everything, time heals everything but loving you.